All right, fans. It is breaking news. We've not done one of these before. Super excited, Nick. We're literally getting ready to hit the record on the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Show. And there is breaking news that has to do with independent wrestling. It was just announced WW Independent Development has been launched. Uh, Shortened by WWE ID. It says, is the latest in our efforts to identify and support the journey of up and coming wrestlers, in turn raising the profile and strengthening the independent wrestling ecosystem. That was a statement from Triple H. And here's what's happening. They have designated certain wrestling schools and they are giving them the WWE ID stamp of approval, the official designation. So they've chosen these schools, and then they are also giving that WWE ID designation to independent talents. Uh, Before we get into what schools got the designation, Nick, like literally, this was less than 10 minutes ago. What's your initial thoughts and feelings about all this?
How ironic that, WWE killed the territories and whatever. And I look, we're not talking about this isn't a return to the territories. So we're not saying that. But when they did the NIL thing a couple years ago, everybody thought like they're and look, I'm pointing to myself. I'm included. This is going to just cripple the indies. They're going for basically athletes that they can coach. They don't, they don't want them with bad independent habits, which still this, by the way, probably leads into. But I mean, it's just a way of like, hey, the indies aren't going to die. Triple H understands that like you cannot solely survive on taking these athletes and making them wrestlers. I'm not saying they're giving that up because they've had a pretty good success with that. I think it's really unique the things that we read in this, and I'm not going to jump ahead too far, just reacting to what you said. But to give schools and talents individually the stamp of the stamp of approval, that designation, it's unique. It's different. It's very much shows that I think, in my opinion, and obviously here's the thing. We've all thought Triple H is a guy who he wants wrestling better. He understands that like WWE being good on its own doesn't help long-term sustainability. I think this is very unique to show that he does care more than just the WWE and clearly has the blessings of the powers that be above him to even do this. This isn't something that he could just do on his own.
Yes, I'm curious now, and I don't want to chase this rabbit too far. Could you see this also happening in MMA with UFC? That they do this exact same thing. Hey, these are the schools, these are the trainers. Anyway,
Sure.
I don't want to chase that rabbit. Here are the initial schools that have been selected. All right. Booker T's Reality of Wrestling in Houston, Cody Rhodes' Nightmare Factory in Atlanta, Seth Rollins' Black and Brave Academy in Davenport, Iowa, the Elite Pro Wrestling Training Center in Concord, New Hampshire, which is run by a guy named Mike Hollow, who is a student of Killer Kowalski, who Triple H trained under. So there's got to be a connection there. And then the Knock X Pro Academy in Los Angeles, run by one Rikishi. So what do these all have in common? Either big names or connections to Triple H.
Mm-hmm. Or somebody, right?
Yes.
I
The
mean,
other, the other
no,
thing that I noticed, this is spread out all around the country.
correct.
You got the Northeast, you got the South, you got West, Midwest, and the West.
Yeah. Good job.
Um,
If geography was a thing, then good job.
it's like it's almost like they're bringing back the territories.
I like the fact that I think the reason you do this geographically is because then you can like you have the designations, but then the individuals in those schools can work like, the surrounding areas. If they're all on one side, then you're like, yeah, but we can't. Yeah. So now the guys in LA can work the West Coast, Texas, and that area, so it breaks up very well. The Atlanta guys can work Florida and Georgia and the Carolina, yeah, it's geographically it's done. But like I said, I think let's not kid ourselves. Like you said, when it's okay, Booker T, NXT commentator, Cody Rhodes, world champion, we start Rikishi. Oh, he's just tied into that bloodline. People, Triple H. Clearly, I'm with you. The guy has to have some connection to Triple H, some form or fashion. Oh, and of course, Seth Rollins is, he's always one of the top guys there. So, just makes sense.
The one school from this initial list that I'm surprised isn't on there for a wide variety of reasons is the Pritchard Jacobs School in Knoxville, Tennessee. Obviously, the connections with Tom Pritchard and WWE, Kane, and WWE, but also location. But here's the thing: if you are a 16 to 22-year-old young person wanting to get into professional wrestling, and your goal is to wrestle for the WWE, we've often talked about what's the path. They've shown you the path. Go to one of our designated schools, become a designated prospect, work your way up. They're literally telling you they have laid it out for you. You're gonna know, okay, this is the price I'm gonna have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, financially, emotionally, moving, whatever. But no matter where you are in the country, there's one of these that's within
relatively close.
Study.
Yeah. They're not asking you to move from LA to Atlanta to go to the Nightmare Factory. Now you can I can go to the LA school as well. And that's a huge, by the way, because it's not that it wasn't a huge ask, still a huge ask. I mean, if you're in, Oregon, you still got to move to LA, right? Or something like that. But I do like your it's the path, it's the way, but it's also the way of let's almost get the bad habits out of them before they even get to NXT if it's possible.
It also sounds like I'm just rereading this. If you are a prospect, it sounds like they're going to support their developmental journey by providing financial opportunity, assisting with training, mentorship, and development, including access to world-class facilities, best in-class ring training, athlete training, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like if you were someone that trained someone else, but they give you this designation, let's say you are in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they're like, hey, kid, we think you're a prospect. We're going to invest in you. You need to go to the Nightmare Factory. You need to this is where, you trained at Bob's, wrestling school. We think you got some talent. We're going to fund you to go to the camp.
Yeah.
So for our purposes, for what we do, I don't think, how does this affect independent wrestling in Georgia, Carolinas?
So I may have, and here's the thing, I'm going to go back and do some really great podcasting. I'm going to reread what you just said, and because here's what I took from that, by the way. They're going to the opportunity to follow the past. So I took it from this. You talked about the financial. I actually took it too as maybe they will help them get bookings. Maybe hey, the financial because you have the ID, we can kind of get you here and here and here, and maybe because here's the thing: we've always talked about guys have to work guys better than them. I had a long conversation at the Monday Nightmare show with somebody about this last night. You got to wrestle guys that are better than you. What if you're the best prospect in your, in your area and your school? Is it WWE? These are questions, by the way. We're not making statements. Does WWE go, hey, there's a guy over here in this promotion. We want you to go work him. And they're going to, we got you. Promotion. Are they covering the cost of you going to work on that show. They're paying you to go work that show because they want to see you wrestle X or something, something to that effect. Especially look, I think a huge opportunity is the one that's in Massachusetts. We know that wrestling's massive, up in that Northeast pocket there.
Yeah.
Is an opportunity to go work guys that you hey, we're going to send you up there, go work up there. What happens if it becomes this is something, by the way, we've encouraged dramatically. Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go down to the Nightmare Factory and you're going to train for 6 months. Then we're going to send you out to LA and you're going to train out there for 6 months because you got to learn from somebody different to, in a different style. Not that they're not teaching you everything, but there's a different something brought to the table at every school. Do they bounce talents around? Well, if we move you to LA, we understand you don't have connections with promotions. We're going to help you get bookings at LA. Don't worry about it. You see what I mean? There's a lot of the big one. Keep scrolling to the very end. The thing that intrigues me the most, guys, there's a big running joke about exposure bucks.
Yeah.
If you told me you get to go work at this promotion, you're going to work this guy, and WWE is going to put on their social media platforms your match against that guy, that's exposure bucks. If you told me, hey, you're going to go work Cardona or blah, blah, blah at an indie show, but WWE's going to put it on their social media platform, dude, if they don't pay you, jump and run, because millions and millions of people are potentially going to see this match and get your name out there. That to me is worth a ton of money in itself.
And if you're an independent promotion, a Deadlock Pro, Turnbuckle, Southern Honor, and WWE says, hey, we're going to need this footage. And now it's Southern Honor Wrestling on WWE's social platform.
So here's the thing. Look, so we talk about this all the time. This is, help me here because I want to make sure that I'm right here. We always talk about when it comes to production, they're the top.
Yes.
By the way, just in case you're not aware, Turnbuckle and Southern Honor, we're going to discuss it when we finally get around to recording the Tapped In show this week. Turnbuckle and Southern Honor ran a show together, and it's I don't know if people are aware, there's another connection in the back room between, so I'm kind of if you're in Georgia and if you're a designated, I understand, you're working turnbuckle shows. We get that. You're going to work turnbuckle shows. But I'm not stunned if you're said, go work Southern Honor because we need some video.
Yes. Yes.
Because Dylan's going to do some amazing things in editing your match and making it look really good. Because here's my thing. Tell me I'm an independent wrestler. I get to go to Southern Honor. I'm assuming that QT is going to be involved in the layout of said match, or Cody is going to be in the layout of said match. So we've got this kind of talent putting this thing together. Then we're going to shoot it, and we're going to have Dylan edit it. And you're not all in. I don't know I don't know where your visions are. But we already think. Shit. Ooh, I walked down this path and I'm going to get in trouble. We already think there's some promotions already tangled into this somehow on the back end. So, but my thing is, it is now time. When we were talking about these tiers of promotion, one of the things we talked about we were talking about production levels.
Yes.
If you want in this game at all, you got to up your production set, and you got to be. It is now the challenges. I had a conversation with somebody about our tiers that we're going to do, and I said, we're not asking you to be insulted by it. You got to be self-aware to where you are in your pecking order. This right now will make you self-aware because you'll know where you stand as these things play out. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yes. Um, I think, man, this kind of, I mean, it doesn't blow a lot of our stuff out of the water, but it certainly sets any promotions associated with these schools. You'd have to put them in the MLB, right? If the goal is to get to the next level, and the next level has said, this
I
is
could I could still make a case for some being AAA, and only say that because we had that criteria, right? But guess
correct.
but guess what one goes? You remember that one where we talked about like where do the boys want to work?
Yes.
Boy, that just elevated a lot of that. Like that. We know that one promotion off the top of our head. We're like everybody should be wanting to work there now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The Yeah, this is if you are a wrestler and someone says, "Hey, we would like to book you." Before I even ask for the money, my first question now is, do you record your shows? Do you do footage? Can I get the footage? That's a question you have to ask. And then if
Yeah,
you
can
and
I? I'm going to interject here. By the way, that second part's more important than the first because I know lots of promotions that record footage and never see the light of day. So
right,
I don't even know. Like I don't even know. You asked, do you record? Like, can I get footage of? That might be where
right.
you lead that conversation.
One of the things I think it's okay for me to say this, and I may have even said this publicly before. One of the things PWX had that Brian Canabroski had, he had a server at his house that had all their footage, all the PWX shows, and they had it broken down by matches. And every major wrestling promotion in the country had access to that server. William Regal, Triple H, Gabe Sapolsky back in the day. They could go in there and look at any footage they wanted to anytime. They could go in there, search it, blah, 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 blah. And that was, I mean, that was ahead of its. That's 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, that's before. I mean, maybe even as far back as like 2018, 2019. So it now, I mean, golly, this is a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
So hold on. You brought. If I'm jumping ahead, you can pump the brakes here a little bit. But you brought up money. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things that we like we were gonna talk, and then I'm like, you know what, just hit the record button. We'll figure it out on the air.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, if you're one of these, what is it, 5? Do your fees just jump? Like yeah. I mean, just asking.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um,
It,
does this, as many people know, I work at a university. We are in the process of going through accreditation. And basically, if a university is not accredited, your degree is really not worth the paper it's printed on. Are we now seeing these are accredited wrestling schools? And if you're going to not one of these wrestling schools, it doesn't have accreditation, which goes back to if a school is accredited, you would assume, I assume these are already a lot more expensive than the others. And if you are a wrestling school that's not one of these and you're charging anywhere in the ballpark of what these schools are charging, you should rethink your life decisions.
I don't know, man. I'm still with probably my first initial thought. If I'm insert any of those 5,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're getting the WWE bump. Like when when guys become the Hall of Fame WWE Hall of Famers, their booking fee bumps.
Right, right,
Hey, look, it might be $500 more.
right.
If
Oh,
it's 6,000, we just went to 6,500. Why? Because we're WWE ID.
here's the thing too. So I agree they should bump their fee up because here's the thing. That's where you weed out so many people.
In my brain, do you know what I just saw?
What's that?
this is the way. There's somebody at the school. They're going, oh, there's Mandalorian. It. This is the way. Like if you want to go to WWE, this is the we are now telling you. You could go NIL if you're a great athlete. You could but if you're an independent wrestler, this is the way. You want to go old school. You want to try it your way. Some people are always trying to ice skate uphill, right? That's what that's a statement from Blade, and I'm like, that's what you're trying to do if you don't, which is fine. We're not telling you can't make it. Do you want to increase your opportunities? It is an investment in yourself to increase the opportunity that you're going. Because guess what? You go to that school. Remember, it used to be like, hey, go to that school and you might be seen. Or no, you go to that school, you're going to be seen.
Yes.
Period. Now, whether they like, that's on you to make sure they like what they see. But if you go to these schools, you are going to get seen by somebody who has that decision.
There used to be, now there were certain people in, let's call them the Illuminati of professional wrestling. And they knew the connections you needed to make. They knew, boom, boom,
Sure.
boom. They knew this is the way. But now, like they have essentially told you, WWE has said, this is where we're watching. It's almost like, hey, at 10:30 on January 9th, Triple H is going to be in this building and you can go meet him and ask him any questions. Like, they're going to get footage of these schools. They're like, I mean, how do you, if you are an independent wrestling school, how do you compete with this? You have to be honest and say, we're just a starting point, and then that's where you're going to go. We can teach you the basics, but yeah, this is just, this is pretty. So I would tell any young person, where should I go train? Well, pick one of these. You need to save up your money.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do.
Well, 5 minutes ago, Nightmare Factory shared it on their Facebook page. Like, they ain't wasting no time. They're like, this is where you need to come. Now, listen, by the way, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We've been saying that when people ask me all the time, where should you go train? I've always said Nightmare. Why? Because it depends. Pause. I guess I should correct myself. Depends on how you want to be as a wrestler.
Yes.
Do you want to wrestle on TV? Nightmare Factory, because they teach you how to work on TV. I sent you that last night. I was at a show that essentially was a Nightmare Factory show, and the joke was, I don't know, they pulled off 8 matches in 2 hours, hour and 58 to be exact, but 2 hours. That's TV.
Yes.
Not 6 matches, 3.5 hours. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, they run essentially TV, and I'm like, I texted my wife, I love Monday Nightmare shows and turnbuckle shows because they run them like it's TV and you are out of there like clockwork. They don't overstay their welcome. So going back to my point, how to work a camera, how to work a crowd, how to work wrestling, like, and you got to hear part 2 of this, by the way. So on the Tapped In show, there's a whole thing I'm going to talk about a match that happened that was a TV match, blah, 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 but was fantastic. But it was a nightmare thing. And so, yeah, if you're going to work on TV, I think clearly, obviously, Booker T's doing a good job. He's put out several people that are on TV himself. So that's probably why he got chosen, right? Like, it's probably like, this is why.
And this completely changes a conversation you and I were having before this story broke about a certain wrestler in Georgia who now, where I was saying, man, he kind of feels like he's kind of fallen off with this announcement. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, he's on the radar now.
Yeah.
So, well, fans, we wanted to bring you this breaking news. I am sure this is just the tip of the iceberg, and this is just the breaking story. And I'm sure we're recording this. It is 10:25 a.m. on Tuesday, October 29th. We're getting ready to record the Tapped In show, but we just felt, literally breaking news. We wanted to bring it to you ASAP. and get out ahead of it. But as soon as we hear more, you will know. Um,
Do you, before we, I know
yeah,
you're ready to log off, but I'm going to ask this. This is probably Nick's statement. This completely will rattle the pecking order. Or let me back up. Will it rattle the pecking order, or will it solidify where we already thought everybody stood to begin with? Because we had a pretty good idea. There's only one. There is one, and over the last couple weeks, we had learned maybe we were underestimating one particular promotion, and now they've elevated them up to that quietly. By the way, have elevated themselves up.
yeah.
But the others, we were probably pretty right. I mean, I would say, but it does change it up.
I think that people like you and I, maybe because of what we do, because we're talking about wrestling, the independent wrestling, we probably give more credence or thought to the pecking order. I think most of the Georgia promotions, they kind of are what they are. And that's not a knock. They are what they are. And they're not really looking, they're kind of in their lane, and they're not really looking to move up or change or spend more money. They're just they just kind of there. And so I don't know that this announcement maybe affects 25%, and the rest of them are going to be completely
Oblivious to it, you think?
oblivious and unaffected.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Anyway.
Well, fans, you need to make sure you stay tuned to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. TappedOutPod.com is where you can find all our videos on YouTube. You got to hit that subscribe. You got to hit that thumb. You got to hit that bell to get the notifications, because you never know when breaking news is going to happen. And if it has to do anything with, especially Southeastern independent wrestling, this is where you're going to catch it first. So for Nick, this is Heath, and we'll see you next time.